going to ask her, okay, well, if it's crimes against humanity, that obligates you to do a lot, actually, as a person with a lot of power. And so I think she thought she would be able to spin it because she normally can, in every other setting, she's been able to. And
what's up, y'all? Welcome back. After completely crushing former CIA agent and now Democratic Senator Alyssa Slotkin on her show, Krystal Ball sat down with the Majority Report to take a little bit of a victory lap. And she earned it, because she's going to talk about how Senator Slotkin didn't want a one-on-one interview with just Krystal Ball. She wanted Saagar there, thinking that because he's a Republican, he's a conservative, it's going to be a balance. But I guess she didn't really expect him to play the back seat and let Krystal Ball drop 40 on her. So let's watch some clips of that, and we're going to watch some clips of the Krystal Ball interview with Alyssa Slotkin, and I'll give my thoughts on it afterwards.
Kept waiting for them to cancel leading up to the interview. I was like, there's no way they go through with this. But originally, I was going to just do the interview solo, because it's sometimes better, a one-on-one dynamic can be better than you're not worried about like stepping on each other. And also, it's kind of an intra-Democratic Party thing. So that just sort of made sense. Her staff was really adamantly opposed to that. They wanted Saagar there because they didn't want the appearance. This is what they told our producers. They didn't want the appearance of a softball interview. I was like, girl, you don't need to worry about that.
Be careful what you wish for.
There. So, I mean, ultimately, I was glad that it did end up with Saagar there, because I think he did a great job, and we played well together in that context. But that was kind of interesting and revealing to me of like what she wanted and what she was going for. When I asked her, "What are you doing here? Why did you want to do this?" she brought up like, "Oh, I like that you guys disagree with each other." So I think even though there was some awareness of the show, I think number one, she thought she sort of did have that like centristy Morning Joe, left right dynamic in mind. People who are in the establishment have a hard time wrapping their head around our politics, like you and I's politics, Saagar's politics. I have a hard time wrapping my head around Saagar's politics sometimes, to be fair. But but in any case, I think she couldn't really conceptualize what we were doing, even though she had some familiarity. And then I also think that she is very confident in her ability to spin. So, she's
not dumb. I mean,
she's not. She was
that came across. Yeah.
She's talented. No, she's talented. There's no doubt about it. She's intelligent. She's talented. I see why Schuber or whoever are like pushing her forward.
And if you haven't seen how much talent this lady, Alyssa Slotkin, has at being just a bullshit artist, that's what they're giving her credit for, which I think calling that talent is a disservice, because that's some Orwellian shit. Flipping words. Talent, and then using that talent to support starving children around the world. And then being good at spinning interviews. I guess you can call that talent, but there has to be another word for it, because talent implies something good, and there's nothing good about this. But if you didn't watch the initial interview, here's a clip of Senator Slotkin showing off her talent, but Krystal Ball not letting her get away with it.
So I would ask for a little bit of an open mind.
Well, what I would ask is, listen, I'm a YouTuber. I have my words, that's all I have. Yeah. But you're a United States Senator. Mm-hmm. Like you're not the president, but you have power. So what are you going to do? Because so far what we've seen, I mean, you voted for some of the aid that's been used to massacre children and innocents. You have backed Israel, as far as I can tell, from your voting record at almost every turn. You voted for a definition of anti-Semitism that would, codify anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism. You voted as a member of the House to sanction the ICC for indicting Benjamin Netanyahu, who you just admitted is a war criminal, by your own words. So are you going to join Senator Angus King, Senator Bernie Sanders in saying no more aid to this country that is committing war crimes against innocent civilians?
I think the first thing, if you're asking about what to do with power, and I would offer that right now, Democrats own nothing in Washington. So
don't play powerless with me. You're a United States Senator. There are things you can do.
In terms of who runs our foreign policy, I just think it's interesting, right, that there was a ton of protests when Democrats were in charge.
There was a protest in Manhattan yesterday.
Okay. I think it's fair to say, just to be honest, that back and forth, like the number of protests that go on now versus before.
Well, they were part of your political coalition.
Well, not so much. I mean, Senator Slotkin.
That's fair.
Obviously, I'm here. Yeah. I was very upset over the Biden administration policy. Mm-hmm. And as you can tell, I'm very upset over the Trump administration policy. Yeah. So let's deal not in strawman, but me and here and now.
But in terms of the tools that I have, the tools that we have in general, to me, the most important thing is a pressurized campaign to get aid into people who are starving. That to me is the number one, because that's the one is urgent and today.
Because she believed that her coming on and saying the starvation needs to stop and I'm organizing this letter, that I think she thought I would accept that and think that, okay, she's moving and that's enough. And I don't think she realized that, number one, you can't have a centrist position on a genocide. Number two, I knew her voting record and that there was a lot to be held account for. Number three, I was going to ask her, okay, well, if it's crimes against humanity, that obligates you to do a lot, actually, as a person with a lot of power. And so I think she thought she would be able to spin it because she normally can, in every other setting, she's been able to. And the point where I thought she was the most clearly Weasley and actually went from being Weasley to just outright lying was when I asked her about AIPAC support. I said, will you stop taking AIPAC money? And she got very high dudgeon. You need to get your facts straight. I am the only Jewish woman who hasn't been endorsed. And I'm like, well, I don't even know about your endorsement. I didn't say she was endorsed. I said money. And so I said to her, but you have received their funds. And that's when she just outright lied and was like, well, I got some back in 2018, but since then, not so much. And of course, people immediately pull up the records. So like, okay, but you did actually. And this is just like now a flat out lie.
I think the point I was trying to make is it's not just about like, we have relationships with nations over time, regardless of who their leaders are. We have really tough moments. We have easier moments. But that doesn't, so I'm not willing to say that like, I hate everything ever.
Sure, but so even if you accept that they're committing a genocide, you still wouldn't cut off their aid?
I think that defensive aid and offensive aid are different things, and I think at this point,
so
what
if
they're
Nazi
doing
Germany,
every single day,
if Nazi Germany said we want defensive aid, I mean, it's just you have to see where they're all weapons that are being shipped. In another context,
the weapons that they're using right now, I mean, to be honest, if you look at what's happening on the ground, the military part of this conflict is, for the most part, over. What they are doing, every single day is around aid, and they are hurting people around the delivery of aid.
People who were starving people just trying to get aid.
That is that's not high intensity bombs. That's not the weapons that that we were talking about 2 years ago. It's just not. I'm sorry. Every single day, the military reports that I read, they are traditional. Like, this is a military that has a bad strategy. It is not the bombs that we were seeing 2 years ago.
It's not a military that has a bad strategy. The strategy is forced starvation and ethnic cleansing. That's their strategy. And they're accomplishing it very effectively with the full backing of the United States government, including, sadly, Democrats.
Well,
and so,
Senator, we have to ask your last question because your staff is telling us. Do you think AIPAC should register as a foreign lobby?
I don't know the answer to that. I think that I know plenty of people who think they should. I don't.
It's kind of a cop-out answer, don't you think?
I mean, yeah. I literally, I just guess I'd have to look at the definition. I certainly have had my tough moments with that organization, and
so you stop accepting their funding.
You got to get your facts straight. I have not been endorsed by AIPAC. I'm sorry. I was the first Jew elected to the Senate that was not endorsed by any Jewish group. AIPAC, J Street.
You've been the recipient of their funds.
In 2018, when I first ran, people who were members, yes. But I've not been endorsed since then. And I just got to be honest, like, I think that this is where facts really matter. I've had very, very difficult conversations with my colleagues in that organization and made a choice back in 2021. So that was the first time I was up for re-election. So I understand that there's a sort of, like, again, cornered position, but to me, like, I call balls and strikes as someone who served in the Middle East.
I have one more question I have to ask you.
She took will you stop taking money from them and flipped it to, I am not endorsed by them. I'm the only Jewish that wasn't endorsed by them. Yeah, but you took their money. Okay, yeah, I took their money in 2018, but as you see here, in 2022, she also took money. So she's just a liar and a snake and a weasel, and she thought that this platform, Krystal Ball Breaking Points, was going to be another platform just like Colbert, where she could just say anything and the host was just going to nod and smile and have nothing going on between the ears. But good thing that wasn't the case.
But to me, the way she was able to take my words and say, oh, well, I wasn't endorsed, which may be technically true. She may not have been technically like on the endorsement page, just demonstrated to me what a skilled spin master she was. That she had her talking point ready to go of how to be like, I'm not the AIPAC shill that you people want to portray me as. But then when she got called out on that as well, then she just like resorted to outright lying about it.
The outright lying about it was the plan to begin with. She just thought Sagar was going to be on her side because she's a conservative, but dressed as a Democrat, which is way worse. I prefer and respect people who just straight up say what they believe in, not be wolves in sheep's clothing, because then it gives perfect leeway for people to not trust governments at all. Any party, anybody that's running for anything, which I guess you shouldn't, because people like this pretend to be one thing while are clearly something else. She's a warhawk neocon conservative Republican, but knows that she wouldn't get any play on the Republican Party, so she's still gonna be that person in all the policies, but she puts on the uniform of the Democrats because they want to have such an open tent. If that means people like this, then your tent is trash. If you want to see the full breakdown of that interview, click this video. And if you're still watching, you might as well like this video and subscribe to the channel. Peace.